Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
And welcome in to a live Feedback Friday here on the Score North YouTube channel. It's Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd, where we like to entertain you from a Minnesota sports perspective every day. Some reckless speculation mixed in. And we always like to stockpile on Fridays your comments, questions, concerns, critiques, whatever it is that you want to send into the show. Could be Minnesota sports related, could be life related. You could be looking for advice from the sports dad, some therapy, whatever it is, we got you covered here. So yeah, and we're going to be popping comments up from the Score North YouTube channel as well. Declan is out doing some scramble or something today for part of a big wedding weekend. So we are flying this plane without an actual pilot. We didn't crash it on Purple Daily. I'm hoping that we don't crash it here. So we'll see what happens.
I got faith
a lot of moving parts. Okay.
I got faith in you.
Rest in peace to this YouTube channel if I screw something up. So let's start with some Twin stuff here, Judd. I'm going to put the first question, it just like a bunch of different things coming in one bin that I'm going to call Luis Arraez consternation. So Twins fans are looking at this offense right now. They can't scratch across any runs. They've now lost, 5 games in a row. They're below 500. They're still leading the division, but they're below 500 for the first time.
It's a gong show right now.
It's not good. And meanwhile, Luis Arraez, the reigning defending American League batting champion, now in the National League, it's the middle of June here. He's batting .403, which obviously leads baseball.
Awesome.
With a .452 on-base percentage, which also leads baseball.
Awesome.
His 87 hits lead baseball, and he's just one of the best hitters in the entire league, I guess. And I think Pablo Lopez is going to turn it around. I do think he's a good pitcher, so I'm not as worried about that. But the fact that you had to give up a Luis Arraez to get pitching, it kind of bothers me that they didn't just have better developed pitchers, so you wouldn't have to give up 3 years of Luis Arraez. But, what sports dad do you have to say for Twins fans who are consternated when looking at the National League box scores every day and seeing a 3-for-4 or a 2-for-4 from Luis Arraez?
It's a little bit frustrating personally because I like to watch him hit. But I mean, if you were to say, sports dad, we want a list of Twins consternation topics. Okay. Like you give me a list of things. That would probably be towards the bottom of my top 10. Like that is the least of my concerns. There are so many other concerns. There are so many other things that this team they are so passive, and they have not really played well since I think they drilled the Yankees in April in Yankee Stadium, a game that I think we were in a certain bar, Phil, and started to watch together, and they scored like 9 runs in the first inning or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, they have not played that well. And the reality is this. So like here, if you want something that pisses me off, here's one. So
does this really grind your gears?
This grinds my gears. This absolutely ticks me off. Okay. So 2 nights ago in Tampa, on the back end of a double steal, Max Kepler falls asleep. So he does not go to second. He would have scored on the Royce Lewis hit that would have given the Twins, a 2-1 lead. Instead, he stays at first. And then Rosarena comes up against Duran, who's, by the way, been marvelous. I ain't faulting Duran, okay?
Rosarena
he's ridiculous. Good. He's awesome. But he hits a home run, 2-1 Rays, game done. The next day, so yesterday morning, Rocco basically says, I talked to Kepler about it. He's got to be on second base, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, I don't know if you saw the story. In Boston, which is not exactly a great team themselves, Alex Verdugo did something that was similar in the fact that he screwed the pooch on a play he should have made or he should have been paying attention. And Alex Verdugo was benched the next day, okay? Max Kepler was in the starting lineup.
No accountability.
Zero.
Dude,
look.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just quickly. I know that I am Mr. Accountability, and some people laugh at sports dad. Oh, you want to be accountable. Oh, you think that works, right? And I understand. Sometimes I probably go too far. Sometimes I probably get so ticked off that I'm more ticked off than the team. But to turn it back to you, Phil, I mean, My God. So the guy basically falls asleep. He's been asleep for like 3 years now at the wheel, and he's just in the starting lineup.
Dude, I know that the word accountability sometimes gets like mocked as like, well, what are you supposed to do? You know, we get mocked too sometimes for, you going to hold teams accountable? What do you think? You know, what do you think that's going to do? Well, from a macro perspective, there's a reason why this country is founded on journalism going back to the 1700s, right? A free press to hold leaders and authoritative figures accountable. And that trickles down to a much less serious degree in sports too. That, yeah, like no one is saying that fans and media know better necessarily than people that work in sports for a living, but sometimes they do. And sometimes hard questions should be asked and you know, we should be probing. Why are these billionaires running a franchise like a mom and pop shop, giving lifetime jobs to people in front offices, losing 18 straight playoff games, right? Like those are necessary questions, I think, in this sort of, you know, sports game that we all play. But has anyone been held accountable for anything the last 2 or 3 years in that organization besides the trainer that got fired last year? Keep in mind, in 2019, this Twins team was the greatest power hitting team in the history of baseball. They had the best offense in baseball, well, maybe like a top 3 offense, because there was a couple other good offenses that just didn't hit as many home runs. And they wind up adding no meaningful parts at the trade deadline, unless you want to count like a seventh inning guy in Sergio Romo, right? Like that was, to me, that was the first sign of, what are we doing? Wait a second. Nice job building up this roster, but why are you not taking advantage of this historically great power hitting offense? Why are we running Randy Dobnak out at Yankee Stadium in a playoff game, right? Like that was the first time I started 4 years ago saying, looking sideways at this organization again. 2020, they win the division in a pandemic shortened year, kind of a weird year, right? They weren't stripping it down to rebuild or reset or retool going into 2021 or 22. They were full speed ahead, trying to win games. Let's keep this window open. A bunch of players in their prime like Max Kepler, Miguel Sano, etc., right? And they finish a combined 25 some games, 22, 25 games under 500 the last 2 years. And now they're back under 500 again in the middle of June. And I'm not saying you should just be firing people for the sake of firing, but they brought back the same coaching staff, you know, minus Wes Johnson, who left. And by the way, is now a head coach.
Georgia. You got the Georgia job.
Dude, good for Wes Johnson, I guess. I think he's, by the way, a funny thing, I think he's actually playing out the season at LSU before he takes the Georgia job. I think I saw that somewhere. Ironically. Yes. He didn't do that with the Twins.
Yes.
But like, we're just going to keep, you know, let's just keep running it back with the same coaches, the same front office, the same everything. And it is annoying. This franchise, there's just, even going back to the Terry Ryan was an excellent leader. And the first time around as a general manager was fantastic, right? The second time around was rocky. And the ownership said he has a lifetime job as GM. As long as he wants to be the GM, he can remain the GM. What kind of message are you sending in terms of accountability when, regardless of performance, you can just keep your job and your office and keep pushing ahead? It's weird.
But how do, just to pick out 2 people to pick on here because they probably deserve it, how do Falvey and Baldelli, how do they never learn and change? Like, as far as Baldelli goes, and I know that he is taking a lot of information marching orders from upstairs. But as far as that goes, how do you never change anything? And because when I talk about changes, I don't mean just, fire this guy, trade that guy. I'm talking about things like you bench Kepler, you say Max.
Agreed.
Like I would have benched him on the spot. I would have been like, dude,
why would he not be used as an example in that spot? Well, what if we lose him? Who cares? You're DFA, dude. He should have been on thin ice going into that incident.
Yes.
That incident should have been a blow up. You're 100% right, dude. I had not thought about this because the Twins don't occupy as much space in my brain as they used to. But how he's in the lineup the next day after pulling that stunt that lost them a baseball game. And then anyone, and I've heard this thread too from like some of the like Twins blogosphere, well, he probably wouldn't have scored from second, even if he had taken second.
That's not the point.
I think he would have scored. Paul Molitor, you said he would have scored on the radio broadcast.
He did.
Don't let people off the hook for stuff like that. Why are you not holding players accountable? As a leader in that situation, whether you're a manager or the front office, if you're lowering the bar for performance that far, where you're going to let Max Kepler just continue to be in the lineup on a daily basis, fall asleep at first base in the 9th inning of a 1-run game, and you're going to put him back in the lineup, what message are you sending to the other players in the organization that, well, our tolerance for poor performance is it's pretty high, actually. So you can pretty much just dig around here and keep your job, stay in the lineup, etc.
And it's been the message going back basically with this current administration to day one. Like, that's always been the message. Oh, you didn't run out of, oh, you should have run that out. But here you are, you're staying in the game and you're going to play tomorrow. That's what just frustrates me. And they don't ever adjust and change based off of that. And look, I mean, here's a perfect one, okay? Because it's probably small, but it's important. In baseball, you play 162 games. So the small moves can turn out to be incredibly important. So a week ago or so, right? They call up Kyle Garlick because they're like, well, he's really good against Southpaws. We're going to face a bunch of them. Here we are now going into the Toronto series, and I'm not even blaming him, but Garlick's presence had made no difference. Meanwhile, the Walner heater is probably passing us by, and halfway through, you didn't say, you know what, let's flip that. Let's get him up here. He's playing so well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and do they, here's what gets me. Do they think that they're just always right? Like, because they can't be that dumb. They're not dumb people. What is the thought process, Phil, that doesn't allow them to say, you know what? We learned from that. What we did was probably not right, so let's correct it. What is that chip in their brain that doesn't allow them to acknowledge that?
I don't know. The more I think about just the last 6 or 7 years and just things that I've kind of gleaned and heard from around baseball, it kind of feels like this organization lacks an authoritative leadership presence. It feels a little bit like maybe they took the 3rd or 4th guy in line with the Indians, now the Guardians, elevated him a spot or two higher than maybe he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think Falvey is a smart guy. I think he does bring value to an organization. I think sometimes the Twins feel like they're not operating with a long-term vision and plan. That's my sense. And maybe Thad, I guess, Thad's always been kind of a number 2 guy to John Daniels in Texas. I mean, outside of maybe doing some Twins radio network hits, Thad used to be a front man for the organization. I can't remember the last time I saw Thad doing an interview.
I have no idea right now what Thad's power is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I kind of thought he would leverage the 2019-20 success and maybe go get the big job, but obviously that didn't happen. All right, let's keep reading comments here. Boy, you can tell we're triggered by this franchise right now, like you guys are. Chuck Jerzak says 3 reasons the Twins can't be good. Number 1, not necessarily cheap, but extremely cowardly owners who won't pull the trigger on anything that helps the product on the field and would rather spend it on their toy target field. Number 2, the 2 tools in the front office have no clue how to develop homegrown talent or read medical records on suspect free agents. And then the manager who learned managing a baseball team by reading Managing for Dummies. I feel bad for our awesome starting rotation. For crying out loud, at least fire the hitting coach. Time for a shakeup.
Yeah.
I keep saying, like, this pinch hitting for Alex Kirilloff thing that they keep doing. Didn't it happen again like 2 games ago? They pulled him after.
Did they?
I think didn't Garlick come in?
I thought that was for Larnick.
I feel like Kirilloff
who's come back up now. But you might be right. But I mean, they definitely are doing it.
It's happened like 3 times where you have this young franchise hitter. At every level, he is mashed. At no point in the major leagues has he shown you like a wide platoon split where there's a 100-point OPS difference between lefties and righties. And the Oakland A's a few weeks ago bring in an opener, a right-handed opener to start the game, and then they surprisingly bring in a left-handed starter to start in the 2nd inning. Why are you reacting to that move? They didn't bring in Sandy Koufax or Johan Santana, right?
That was ridiculous.
And the fact that Rocco and the Twins are reacting to that move by pinch hitting for Alex Kirilloff in the 3rd inning. Stuff like that. It's like, what message? I was texting with someone, a friend in a different organization from old Macadac used to cover baseball long enough to at least have like some people in different organizations.
Tap into your sources.
Opinion. Yeah.
Tap it into the sources.
And I said, am I nuts? Like, my opinion on this pinch hitting for Kirilloff thing, especially in the 3rd inning against a mediocre lefty that the A's bring in. And he's like, no, dude, you're from a there's the spreadsheet move that you make, and maybe you could justify from a spreadsheet perspective making that move, which I also question. And then there's the human element side. And there's a lot of people in baseball that think the Twins, who were all human element with Terry and Bill and those guys, that now it's like they barely ever account for the human element on this other side.
But how about just he's really good? Hey, this guy's really good.
Let him build confidence. Let him go out there and build confidence and become the alpha of the clubhouse. Like, he's one of the leaders you're going to need for the next 3 to 5 years, provided the wrist holds up. Yeah. And you're basically castrating him by pinch hitting him for guys like you're going to bring Kyle Garlick in to pinch hit for a centerpiece young franchise player. Think about the human aspect of that for a second.
I got a question based off that too. Because people that then say, well, it's the Twins' reliance on advanced metrics, analytics, blah, blah, blah. It's my personal opinion, okay? Just from me personally. I don't feel like platoons or deciding on the matchup in that case. I think that goes back to the 60s, the 70s, the 50s. Like, I feel like advanced metrics are really in-depth things and more like, I don't think splits have been around forever. Mm-hmm. Teams had access to splits for years. We just didn't look at them. Okay. So like, tell me when Kirilloff gets pinch hit for, is that some type of deep secret of this is the new age thing? That to me seems like a very old school train of thought. And I still don't like it, but I think it's putting too much on this is the new wave. Platoons aren't the new wave. They're old.
Right. But they do incorporate a lot of, call it new wave information, and every team at this point to some extent does.
Sure.
But I think like they can talk themselves into 2 years of Emilio Pagan being in high leverage situations because various analytical data points tell them his process should lead to better results based on what we're saying.
That again.
Or based on what we're seeing. But at some point, the results are just the results, and there's not.
The Kirilloff thing is actually a very old school thought process. Now, in his case, it's incredibly flawed because he should play every day if he can.
Yeah, let's keep going here. I'm going to blow a gasket. Susan Terwilliger says, I can't even pull for the Twins anymore. I hope they lose 100 games and we can put a banner up the size of the strikeout zone. They are an embarrassment to Minnesota baseball teams.
This is what you said, and this is where it gets tough.
Trent Bestlin says, I'm so happy that you guys are back doing... Oh, actually... Hold on, this is a movie review one. I just want to see if we have another... Oh, we have a couple more Twins ones here. A couple more Twins ones, and then we'll transition. Charles Raymond says, gentlemen, would you consider a division win for the Twins with an early out in the playoffs a success, another colossal failure, or something in between, or maybe just one playoff game win makes us happy? Where's your bar right now?
I hope it's not there. Like, no. This is...
My bar is win a playoff game right now.
Okay.
Just win a playoff game.
My bar is this. Stop being stupid. That's my bar. Stop being stupid. Stop doing things that don't make any sense to anyone. Quit leaving yourself open to be ripped because you are literally offending everyone trying to watch you. A playoff win would be nice. But I mean, right now, I'm just at the point of do things that make sense. I'm poking him with a stick and say, do something that makes sense. Yeah. That's all I want right now. They're making no sense. They're irrational.
Let's see here. Croquet Film on the YouTube comment section says, Giants fans are so glad we passed on Carlos Correa. Dodged a major bullet.
Yes.
I saw another, I think it was Parker Hageman put out some stats about how he's usually a really good fastball hitter, and he can't hit fastballs this year.
Yep.
It can't just be the plantar fasciitis, is it?
No.
And we're kind of beyond the point where there's a hole in his swing when you're a veteran. And fire the hitting coach. Well, Carlos Correa has been in the league long enough to sort of figure it out after a couple months.
Store theory. I got a dime store. I've got a sports dad dime store theory on what is his starting point. So, like, yes, he's banged up now. But, Phil, I really think that I think he's shook because two teams said your career will end soon.
Wow.
I think he's shook. Like, think about it. Baseball's mental, man.
If someone told you that, yeah.
You know, I mean, how tough are you? If someone came to you tomorrow and said, you know, Phil, we were going to give you $1 million to join FS1 and debate Skip. But we did a physical, and your voice is going to go in 3 years. We
Your
don't
vocal
trust
cords are hanging by a thread.
By
What do you mean?
thread.
I feel fine right now.
Yeah, no, you're going to be done. You're going to be done, and because of that, the offer is off the table. You go back to Score North and that Zolgad idiot.
In fact, this is the
I think you'd be
worst
shocked.
set of vocal cords we've ever seen
Yes.
on a 37-year-old man.
Unbelievably bad. You'd be shook.
Yeah, it would be weird not to, empathize too much with a guy that still makes $36 million a year. He's fine, but yeah, when you have a couple $300 million contracts locked in with two different franchises, and
you wanted out. He wanted to go there.
Yeah, they back out. Now you're back in a place that I know it sucks to hear, Twins fans, but this wasn't where he wanted to be.
Yep.
So you're in a place where you and your wife really didn't want to be in the first place, but they happened to come in and offer you the most money after the medical stuff. It's an interesting dynamic for sure.
I'm predicting a major bounce back in 24. Rotisserie League players, get them next year.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's shook.
But he won't be shook next year because there'll be some distance between it?
Exactly.
Okay.
And plus, I mean, he's going to, this is embarrassing right now.
Well, if it gets even worse for him, Burnsville Heating and Air is hiring. If he's looking for
Great job.
a soft landing, if you're a fast learner looking for a job change, Burnsville Heating and Air is hiring all HVAC positions with all levels of experience. So you can get, and if you've never worked with HVAC before, you can get trained on the job. They're great about that at Burnsville Heating and Air. If you're looking for a great summer job, or maybe you're a recent college grad looking for work, you can work close to home with full-time jobs throughout the 7-county metro area here in the Twin Cities and in western Wisconsin. Join the rapidly growing team of heating and cooling experts for over 35 years at Burnsville Heating and Air. Apply now at burnsvilleheating.com and click careers. That's burnsvilleheating.com and click careers. Over at EcoFun, 2 metro locations, Forest Lake and Burnsville, all sorts of fun things for you to get into. For instance, golf carts. How about this, Judd? A $1,250 4-seat EFI golf cart available and in stock for just $64.99. This year, those include a fold-out windshield standard on them at no extra cost. Also, the 2023, is it pronounced Aprilia and Moto Guzzi motorcycles are in stock and ready to ride home. So many fun toys for you guys to get into here. EcoFunMotorsports.com. EcoFunMotorsports.com.
Nice.
All right, let's see here. Trent Bestland says, I'm so happy you guys are back to doing movie reviews, which you can find movie reviews with Mackey and Judd. I believe later today, the Tin Cup review is going to be posted on that podcast feed. I look forward to listening to each new one, and I'm pumped about having them all in one place to listen to. With that being said, I have a great movie recommendation for you guys to review.
Okay.
And I think this falls into a rom-com.
Yep.
And I love this recommendation. Grumpy Old Men.
Oh, yeah.
Great cast. Yeah, Anne Margaret, Burgess Meredith, Kevin Pollak, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon.
I saw that one in the theater, if I'm not mistaken. Really good.
Yep. Even a Shooter McGavin sighting. He played like the weird husband or boyfriend or something.
It's been a long time.
Takes place in Minnesota. Some great lines, a love triangle. For the purpose of your movie reviews, I think you guys would love to do this movie. I have added this movie now to the list for this summer.
Let's do it.
We should
love it.
100%. And I don't know, Declan probably hasn't seen that one.
No, and it might bore him, but it's a good film.
Yeah, it would. There's a lot of good fodder.
I can't tell with Deck sometimes. Because he's young. I mean,
He gets bored sometimes with like 80s and 90s movies.
I think he's going to hate Slapshot. That's my prediction right now. It's my hot take.
I've never seen Slapshot straight through.
I think you'll find it entertaining, not great. It's clearly one of my all-time favorite films. I think Declan's not going to like it at all.
Yeah.
It's very 70s, and I think that's going to bore a guy that was born in 1993.
Yeah. All right, so there's a bunch of people from last week's Duluth fiasco on the show where we started arguing about Duluth.
We love Duluth.
I love Duluth. You love Duluth. Declan apparently hates Duluth and up north, but then he starts talking about the cabin that he loves in northern Wisconsin.
It's very weird.
So Corey Larson says, Matt, and he went to St. Cloud State, by the way, which is, in the north direction. But he says, Mackey, can you believe Declan would rip on Duluth while always talking up St. Cloud? St. Cloud is the worst city in Minnesota. I don't endorse that last part. We love our St. Cloud listeners and viewers.
Yeah, and
Declan's not here to defend himself, but I still, a week later, I've been thinking about this. We got to get Declan back to Duluth. I don't know what kind of terrible experiences he's had there, but like the North Shore overlooking the
great
gigantic
bars.
Lake Superior, yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, Duluth is one of my favorite trips in the state, without question.
Yes.
And St. Cloud's fine. St. Cloud's close. St. Cloud's absolutely fine.
I mean, I love just a little 3-day weekend, maybe even just an overnight in Duluth. Yeah,
Let's go to a show.
Or Cade Pearson says Declan
Go to a show.
Dead to me. Go to a show?
No, let's go do a show.
Oh.
Let's go cut a deal with, if it's still there, Grandma's Sports Bar. Great sports bar. At least it was. Let's go do a show up there. Let's go to a PD. Let's draw in all those folks from Duluth that can come watch us mingle. We'll enjoy some Surleys with them. But yeah, that's a weird. And what's weird is Declan's stance on Duluth has not changed since I met him, and it's so harsh.
Yeah, it's way too harsh. I'd love to hear from some of our Duluth listeners and viewers. Hit us up. Send us messages through the Score North app feedback tab. Sell Duluth to Declan. Give us like 5 landmarks or bars or reasons.
Yeah.
And it would be a blast to go up there and do some Purple Daily, or I don't know, do something up there, a live event or something.
Absolutely.
KZ Bay says hating on Duluth is like hating on dogs.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Oh, here's a theory. Robbie B says Declan had his heart broken in Duluth.
I don't get that. I think he would have mentioned that. He's pretty much an open book. I think he would have mentioned that. Yeah. No, I think that here's my only guess. My only guess is Declan's dad didn't like Duluth.
Okay.
And so
it's like the family hated Duluth or something.
Yes. Yeah. And Declan talks about the fact that he and his dad, his late dad, had no patience, and Declan clearly, if you watch our show, has no patience. So like I could see Declan and his dad having one bad experience, like they didn't think it was fun or something, and that forever colored their impression of Duluth, and they were done with it.
Yeah. Josh Salvino, some Viking stuff here. I'm listening to your discussion about how the Vikings would be potentially worse without Danielle Hunter on the team, and the Vikings trading him for draft capital. I think you guys are missing one major outlier. The defense was basically last in total defense last year with Hunter on the field. Can we all agree? Can we all agree that we all as a collective hope that the defense is better this year? But let's go back to the same big picture hat. Will the defense be that much worse without him than if he was traded? I mean, the defense is worse without Danielle Hunter.
Yeah.
But I think it's overstated how much worse it would be. I think the scheme makes it a lot better. I think the Flores net positive would outweigh the Hunter, especially like if you did trade Danielle Hunter, you would probably sign one of these veteran edge rushers like a Justin Houston to take his place for a year. So it's not like you would not fill his role.
So I think one of the most intriguing stories about the Vikings 2022 defense, which was just god awful, is this. I think at the end of the day, when you go look at especially Hunter's advanced stats, Danielle Hunter had a great year for being miscast. Mm-hmm. So like that's my point. Like if you watch those games, there were a lot of times I think we all said, what is Easy Ed doing with 99? Like what he's dropping back into coverage. Harrison Smith is not blitzing, and defense. It all goes basically hand in hand. So I'll defend Danielle here. I actually think he had a really strong season in spite of what he was asked to do.
Yeah, that's another factor. Like, would he have been a top 5 edge rusher if working with a better or different defensive coordinator? Totally valid point. And then Justin R. says, when talking about Jefferson's contract extension, why do you cite Tyreek Hill's $30 million average annual value, which is predicated on a non-guaranteed final year of $44 million that the Dolphins will never pay him and artificially inflates the deal? So, all right, I mean, that's a fair point, but I think here are the targets for a Jefferson contract. If I'm his agent, I'm looking at average annual value, total guaranteed, and total contract. And I want to break all those records. So average annual value right now, Tyreek Hill leads all receivers $30 million. That's the baseline for my client. Total guaranteed, Cooper Kupp, $75 million. That's the baseline. And then total contract, Devontae Adams leads with $140 million. So, like, that's the starting point, plus whatever you can get if you're the agent for Justin Jefferson, right?
I believe that the highest paid non-quarterback in the league is Aaron Donald of the Rams, and he's something like the 14th highest paid player because the top 13 or 14 are quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm going in with that contract. I want to exceed that. I'm actually going to say the receiver story is cute and nice, but I want a contract that makes him unequivocally, no questions asked, the highest paid non-quarterback in this league. So I don't want to talk about receiver comps. I want to talk about everyone else but quarterback comps. That would be my stance. And Kwesi told me it's a champagne problem. So they can clearly afford it. I mean, if it's a champagne problem, no problem at all.
It's funny how those words probably do come back to bite him at some point at the
never admit that, man. You never
negotiating table. So, all right. Thanks for your feedback here on this Feedback Friday, Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. You can, if you so choose, give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on the Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd podcast feed on Apple. Help spread the word about this awesome fan base that you guys have helped us build here. And then if you could click the subscribe button and the like button on the YouTube channel, we can help spread that word in video form. So
explore Duluth, folks. Explore Duluth. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, let's make it. Let's make it happen. We'll get up there for some sort of live show. That would be a freaking blast. And maybe we can just drop Declan off in Forest Lake. I don't know. Or St. Cloud.
Blaine. No, we go through right by Blaine.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys. Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.